the things about Russia that kind of misleading people or make people be more cautious toward Russia. Though people still, wow, it's Russia. We didn't know much about Russia. Now we are entering the homes of regular people on weekly basis, and with their videos, we see how people live, and that the people in Russia, they actually the same people. They have had two arms, two legs, and they speak different language, but their feelings are the same. They laugh at the same stuff, and they live on the same earth. And it's interesting that maybe, and I was thinking maybe running in between the rain strings, going to keep me safe. And I said that maybe I would start this new concept of the channel and take the angle of the linguistics, since the channel is dedicated to the language learning and the cultural aspect of the language. Because when you learn language, you cannot stay away from culture, because language, just language grammatical structure, mean anything, because sometimes the sentence is dead without culture implied to that sentence. And I started from the subject that was really bothering me for a long time, and being in the classroom. And I have my own history course, though I am by no means a historian. But as I say, if I'm going to continue videos in that stream, in that channel, and I mean in that direction, then my videos going to be very subjective, not objective, because I will be talking about something that I care. I have my own opinion. I think that people might have been interested. It could have been interesting. It could be interesting for some people who will be watching that video. And that's how the first video got created, because the linguistically, again, it always bothered me. I am in no way of defender, or I don't know, the defender of that figure, that historic figure, and I'm talking about Ivan the Fourth. But Ivan the Fourth is attributed in the Russian history as the first Tsar of unified Russia, when from the small principalities on the east of Europe, he kind of stopped the war between all those principalities, and he put them together, and he is officially was crowned as the Tsar of Russia. So from the linguistic point of view, Ivan the Terrible, I don't know, it really bothered me. First, I didn't pay attention because it was a set expression. When you learn English and you learn Russian history in English, Ivan the Terrible is the term that is assigned, the title that is assigned to Ivan the Fourth. And in Russian history, again, he is by no means terrible. And we were talking to few subscribers here saying that the English language also evolved with times. However, if we are talking about the 16th century, in that time, Russia was a land of mystery pretty much, because the European kingdoms and principalities also were very busy dividing and conquering each other and having all those fights and wars. And we all know the history about that side of Europe. And then the Europeans, first Germans and Venetians merchants, they started going toward east, because they heard, remember how the rumors were spreading in those times. They heard that there is a country, China, somewhere down there. And then the Europeans, Portuguese and Spaniards, they were kind of setting their sails across the Atlantic, looking for new lands. And that's how people came to discover Russia, and they come to this country, kind of, and they say, wow, we were received by the court of Ivan the Fourth, and all the luxuries and opulence of the court, and new habits that we've never seen before, and new foods and everything. It's definitely new and different country. And the first mentions by Europeans about Russia were in the 16th century. It was described, as I said, I'm quoting one of the books by the European scholar. Her name is Stephanie Mond, and she says she literally uses the word of the discovery of Muscovite Russia in Tudor England. And she says that, yeah, before that, the Venetian Italian person came, and he was writing some recounts of his travels and about that land, and geographically it was described a little bit as the huge vast plain land that was on the east of Europe. And it's interesting, some traditions were very interesting, totally different, and the language was different, and you have to stay a while in order to be able to understand and to retell the story. And no one was saying that Ivan was the terrible. And how come later in language it became that Ivan became the terrible? And me, as the linguist, that was the most interesting thing. I am not arguing that he was wonderful or he was horrible or he was terrible. I just want us to step aside, take a step back, and saying, hey, it was half a millennium ago. People back then were different, rules were different, the rules of engagement were different, the value of human life was different. And however they ruled the countries back then, it's not, I don't know. Nothing good is coming out of us, modern people, judging those times and especially hating each other, saying, "Oh no, he was horrible." And his guard, you think they were nice people? No, they were not nice people. But the reality of those times were that lots and lots of conspiracy and fighting against each other for the throne and power was a normal thing. And the dynasties in Europe, if we talk about French throne or English throne, we know how different groups of people were in constant struggle and fight to conquer the throne and to put the representative of that or this family on the throne and become the king or queen of those times. So it's me as a Russian, again, Russian American. I came to this country 30 years ago, 30 years ago. And the country where I'm coming from, the Soviet Union, no longer exists. So technically, I don't have any country where I belong other than the United States. But genetically, I am Russian, and I can't get this out of myself. And that's why when I hear all these things that are lately brought up by the politics and everything, I kind of, okay, I don't dive into that because I have a job that I have to deal with, and that also on daily basis. However, the linguistic part of this, the terrible, it's not equal to Grozny. His name is Grozny. And as I say, there is a city, the capital of Chechen Republic on territory of Chechnya, of course, the Russian Federation, named Grozny. Do you think the city would be called terrible? No, because it was the first forepost, first Russian fortress in the Caucasus Mountains when the Russians were going into the Caucasus Mountains to the south of the European land to go over there, and they established the city, and the city to this name, the city's name is Grozny. So the city is not terrible. And the more I was thinking, and the people were saying maybe it's fearsome. You have to do the adjective fearsome. Ivan the fearsome. Fearsome is also, it's like if you could use it, the cat when he is biting me, his teeth are fearsome. That's not probably appropriate for the human to be described, because actually he wasn't ugly. He was a normal looking guy, and I don't know whether you knew or not the situation back then in the 16th century, but when Russia was discovered by the English traveler, what was his name? Let me see. Official relations between England and Russia were indeed not existent when the explorer Richard Chancellor, sent to discover northern passage to China and the East Indies, reached the Russian coast at San Nicolas on the White Sea in August 1553 and was received with pomp in the Moscow Kremlin by Tsar Ivan IV in December of the same year. Russia was until then a barely known country in England, apart from some merchant and intellectual circles who were interested in promoting exploration and launching England into the competition for overseas expansion against Spain and Portugal. That is the time we are talking about, and I lost my train of thought. Really, I wanted to say something, and I forgot. So yeah, and back then no one called him terrible, and the word was changing. Especially people from France, French language, terrible. We still have that infant terrible. Pardon my French, the infant terrible, terrible child. So it's when the child doesn't behave, or less loved person or in the family, and that is kind of softer meaning of the adjective terrible. But what I find more appropriate right now, if the history changed, I mean the meaning of the adjective changed, then the formidable. Formidable is the wonderful adjective, Ivan the Formidable. Why don't we use this thing? But of course, no one is going to rewrite the history. And to, in my opinion, is the Russian by birth. And though I don't have my parents, I have very few relatives remaining in Russia, and I very seldom go back to Russia. But I have lots and lots of friends there, and I communicate almost on a daily basis. And Sasha and Masha communicate with me, and I have other people. I have connection with Russia, and as a Russian person, it kind of pains me to see that um, Ivan the Terrible is being taken without any historical context and saying, yes, that's it, he is horrible, we hate him, and because nothing good could come out of Russia, Russian is the land of where everything is horrible, and then we go to the 20th century, and then all that dictatorship that Russia has suffered, and that will bring us to the politics, whether we want it or not, because in 1917, as I said in my video, Russia did choose the different social organization of the society. Sure, it did come with blood and revolution, but however, because those two social ways of existence, they couldn't coexist peacefully in the beginning, and that's a whole other story. So I use so many words trying to explain where I was coming from to the idea of this to the idea of maybe demystifying Russia. But the first demystification turned out to be provoking lots and lots of conversation, lots and lots of comments, which is actually good for the YouTube algorithm, but is not so good for me as the YouTube creator. Probably I have to grow thicker skin, as they say, and not to jump into kind of discussions, and I don't know. So what I'm trying to say, please have an open mind. Also have an open mind, because we are used to some things that we were brought up, and it's so difficult to let it go and change your opinion. And to re-educate yourself, the changing of opinions requires new knowledge, and new knowledge, we know that is probably the most it's hard work. So anyway, I'm not trying, what am I trying to say? I'm not trying to say that no one wants to learn anything new, that is tough to learn, to teach an old dog new tricks. However, just have an open mind, be nice to each other. Think about our animal communities, animal lovers communities, how wonderfully we all can live together in these communities. Why can't we transfer the same kindness and niceness, my word, to the rest of our knowledge, to the rest of our convictions? Let's soften the attitudes. Let's soften the angles. Let's get rid of those sharp arrows that we are throwing into one into another. And I think the world would only win. It's a win-win situation. So that was my explanation to that video.